Sometimes the ocean returns a ship, but not its people. December 1872. In the North Atlantic, a brig called Mary Celeste moves under full sail. The galley is stocked, the cabins hold clothes and belongings. The hull is sound, and yet the deck is empty. 10 lives are missing: a captain, his wife, their 2-year-old daughter, and 7 sailors. No distress call, no final entry that explains anything. Just a working vessel, abandoned at sea. Tonight this is not a ghost story. It's something colder, a chain of facts that hums louder than any legend. The promise. By the end, you'll hear the most grounded explanation, favoured by oceanographers and maritime historians, for why a competent crew might choose to leave a seaworthy ship. But first, we stick to what's known. On November 7th, 1872, Mary Celeste sailed from New York bound for Genoa. In her hold, 1,701 barrels of denatured industrial alcohol. On her quarterdeck, Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife Sarah, their daughter Sophia, and a crew of 7. The weather gave little mercy. For nearly 2 weeks, the ship fought through storms on the way to the Azores. The last confirmed logbook entry is dated November 25th, near the island of Santa Maria. After that, silence. The find. 10 days later, on December 5th, the British brig Dei Gratia sights a vessel staggering on the swell, sails pulling, course unsteady, no answering flag. A boarding party climbs over the rail and finds a scene that feels wrong without looking dramatic. The lifeboat is gone. One of the bilge pumps is disassembled. There's about a metre of water in the hold. Not ideal, but not critical. The sails are set. There's food and fresh water for months. Clothes, charts, and personal items remain. No blood, no signs of fire, no struggle. The ship is very much alive. The people are not here. They sail Mary Celeste to Gibraltar to be examined by the Admiralty Court. An investigation that confirms nothing. In Gibraltar, officials dissect every scrap of evidence. The cargo manifest, the state of the rigging, the accounts of the salvors from Dei Gratia. Were the rescuers involved? Was there mutiny? Pirates? The verdict is unsatisfying and important. No proof of foul play. The court pays the salvors a reduced award, enough to acknowledge their effort, not enough to silence rumour. The caution feeds the story feeds the myths. You may have heard some of them. A hot meal left on the table, ink still drying in the logbook, pipe smoke hanging over the companionway. None of those details appear in the surviving records. They were added later by newspapers and fiction. What survives are the plain facts, and those facts point to a choice, not a chase. 3 details that change everything. Focus on 3 pieces of the puzzle that rarely get considered together. First, some of the cargo barrels were made of red oak, a porous wood. Red oak can allow vapours to seep. In a hot, damp hold, alcohol fumes accumulate. You don't need a fire to be afraid of a hold full of fumes. You need a nose, a spark, and imagination. Second, one of the bilge pumps was found taken apart. If the pumps had been clogging, possibly with residue from an earlier coal cargo, the captain might not have known how much water had actually entered the ship during days of rough weather. Third, recent storms made for nervous sailing, soaked decks, slapping canvas, and constant noise that can make even experienced crews misjudge risk. Put those together and you get a rational, temporary plan. Launch the lifeboat, keep Mary Celeste under reduced sail, and ride astern on a tow line while ventilating the hold and checking for danger, especially if a land seemed near. It's a decision meant to buy time. Time is what the ocean takes away first. How do you vanish without dying right away? Picture the scene in the early morning haze. The crew lowers the boat. A line runs from the stern of Mary Celeste to the lifeboat, safety on a rope. Then the wind shifts. The mainsail snaps full. The ship lurches. A tow rope grows tight as iron. Lines can part. They can chafe through. They can yank a small boat hard enough to throw everyone into the water. If the rope snaps, the brig, still under sail, moves on. Slowly but steadily, while the lifeboat stalls in the chop. The crew loses the ship in fog or distance. If the rope holds and someone cuts it in panic to avoid capsizing, the result is the same. Days later, De Gratier finds a ship that never needed its people to keep moving. The ocean moves her anyway. No pirates, no mutiny. Just a practical choice in bad conditions that turned into a trap. The paradox of a sound ship from shore. The decision seems absurd. Why leave a vessel that's still afloat? Because seaworthy is an assessment, not a guarantee. On deck, in wind and spray, a captain doesn't have the luxury of hindsight. If a pump might be failing, if fumes might be building, if a shoreline might be within reach, the lifeboat feels like a pause button. On calm paper, it's a mistake. In loud weather, with a child on board and a hold that smells wrong, it can feel like the only responsible move. That gap between what looks safe later and what feels safe now is where this mystery lives. What happened after? Mary Celeste kept sailing. Bad luck stuck to her name. Years later, a different owner tried to wreck her on purpose near Haiti for the insurance money. That final fraud failed. The ship broke up on the reef anyway. As for the original crew, the captain, his wife, their daughter, and the men who worked the lines, no trace was ever confirmed. Their story ends at the edge of reason, not beyond it. What this story is and isn't, this isn't a tale of sea monsters or phantom crews. It's a map of small, understandable decisions. A porous barrel, a questionable pump, a stressed crew, a sensible evacuation, a fatal rope. The ocean does not need to be supernatural to be merciless. It only needs wind, water, and time. One question for you. We love certainty after the fact, but certainty is a privilege of the unwet and the warm. If you were Captain Briggs, your wife and child aboard, the hold breathing fumes, the pump suspect, the weather changing, would you risk staying or risk leaving? Tell me which version persuades you and what mystery you want next.